how did I manifest a healing farm? First of all, listening to my intuition and my guidance. And when I would sit in quiet meditation and prayer and just sit in silence, I was hearing consistently, you'll be owning a healing farm one day and get ready to move. And I even was seeing it in my dreams. I would see visions of this healing farm. I ended up painting a picture of this vision that I kept on getting, of water and this beautiful mountain range and these reeds that were long and tall with little yellow and white flowers on the top of them. So I painted this beautiful picture, and I kept dreaming and seeing these visions of a healing farm and kept hearing audibly in my prayer time, in my meditation time, you'll be owning a healing farm. So instead of ignoring those signs, I started to listen to them. So I started to tell people, we're going to own a healing farm. I don't know how, when, where, or why we'll be owning a healing farm, but we will. And I even had it down, listening to my intuition and to my higher guidance from God, down to we'll be having a healing farm in 2.5 years. So for 2.5 years straight, I would just tell people, we're going to own a healing farm one day, and a place where people can come for respite and come back to nature and do my treatments, get treatments, helping them heal emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I said I'll also be doing yoga and Reiki and fascial stretch and grief and trauma counseling. And I had this whole vision that was just unfolding. So I kept talking about it. And people would always go, that's really cool. I don't know how that would ever come to fruition, but I'm super excited for you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to worry about how it's going to come. I'm just listening and saying yes. So along with that, I started to get visions of us moving. And so quite often when I'd be on my way to work, I've been self-employed for 7 years. So on my way to work, I would shut the door to our house and I would see through the windows the house would be empty. And I'm like, gosh, we are moving soon. And quite often in the middle of the night, I would hear, start packing, you're going to be moving soon. And then I also saw a vision of, once I was driving down the highway and I was turning, if you're familiar with Phoenix, I was turning off of the 101 freeway and onto the 57 freeway. And I saw this huge vision of a countryside with a little grain silo. And I was like, gosh, we're moving to the country, and I just kept seeing these visions, and they would overlap in my daytime consciousness and in my dreams and in my meditation. So I knew we were going somewhere. I didn't know how, when, where, or why, but I was open to it. I even wrote down the different things that I wanted for my healing farm. I wanted it to have a place for yoga. I wanted it to have a place for people to come and stay. I wanted to do artwork with people. I wanted to do meditations. I wanted to do any kind of hiking or any kind of activity like river rafting and things like that with my clients if they chose to do that. So it was really neat because I had been seeing this dream of this manifestation, I would say, of what I want my healing farm to look like. And about 2 years ago, I was drawn to take a course for grief and trauma counseling at Joanne Cacciatore's farm up in Cornville, Arizona. Dr. Joanne Cacciatore is both a professor at ASU on grief and trauma counseling and also an author of a few really nice books on grief and trauma. So I had heard about her, and I'd heard about her farm through a client of mine. So on my way up to the farm, my husband and I went, and I stepped out of the car and I said, Mike, I've been here before. And he's like, oh, I said, no, I've been here before. And everything looked familiar. Her respite home where she has her clients come and stay, I had been there before. Her animals, I'd been there before. The yoga platform that she has by the river, I was there. The kayaks and the river itself, I'm like, I have been here. And so it was really weird because the whole time I'm sitting there telling my husband, I've been here before, this is real. It was almost mind-blowing. And finally he's like, I get it, you've been here before. And, because I kept repeating it because I was so shocked. So later I realized that I had been remote viewing her property probably in my meditations and in my dreams. And later on, when I had signed up for this grief and trauma counseling, I realized that I had been there. And so that's super cool. So that was another part of my manifestation, and just listening to the steps along the way of how we were going to own a healing farm. The other kind of cool thing was my husband wasn't really truly into all this. He really liked our home in Phoenix. We both had great jobs. He had a great job, and my well-balanced career was going really well in Phoenix, and I was very booked with my clients. And it didn't make sense to move. But it was really interesting because we had gone about 2.5 years ago to California to visit some friends. And we were talking, and I was telling him all about my visions and how I think we're going to own a healing farm. And it was great counsel because one of our friends, his name is Danny, said, Kristen, I totally believe that this is where you're being led, but I would strongly suggest that you and Mike get on the same page. And I thought, that's really interesting. So when we got back from California, I remember telling Mike, I don't know why I'm getting all these visions that we're going to be moving, but if you don't want to move, then I'm with you, and I'm 100% behind you on that. I said, and then maybe these visions, these intuitive moments will start to leave me. And he said, gosh, I don't want to do that to you. And he goes, Kristen, if we can find a house that is as amazing as the house we live in now, and I can find a job that I could work working out in the country, then I'm all in. And as soon as he said that, no, I'm not even joking, like a month later, we're on vacation, he throws his resume out and he gets this great job offer, 30% more, and it's working remote. So that freed us up to move wherever we wanted to, really. So then another kind of cool part of the story is that I had painted the picture I told you earlier. I painted the picture of the mountains and the river and the reeds that I kept seeing that was going to be close to our healing farm, and that I knew our farm was going to be close to the river, and also that we'd have kayaks and we'd have a lot of nature kind of things and animals. So now he's working remote, and I knew it was going to be in the Verde Valley area, and now we're free to look for a place to live. My husband was just peeking through Zillow and saw a house, and he said, this is a really cool house. I really like this house. And I remember looking at the price going, yeah, no, that's probably not going to happen. And I wasn't really drawn to the outside of the house. And I said, it's a really pretty house inside, but I'm not drawn to the outside. I said, but let's go up and look at it, and maybe we'll look around in the Verde Valley area. So one day we get in the car on a Saturday and we're just looking around. We're looking around Cornville. We're looking around the outskirts of Sedona, and we're looking in Camp Verde. And we stumbled upon a house. And I remember saying, now this looks like a healing farmhouse. It had a very long driveway with big trees, and it had a little casita off to the side, and it looked like a great place to have retreats and getaways. And so I was like, okay, so this is our healing farm. And so as we're standing on that property, you know, we didn't have a realtor, a woman drives up and said, are you looking for a house? And we said, well, kind of, we're just kind of looking. She goes, well, my aunt actually is the one listing this house. Let me give her a call and she'll come and meet you. So there we meet our realtor named Britta. So Britta said, this house actually is sold. It's actually my parents' house, but I'll show you around. I'll let you know what you can get down here. And then I want to show you this other house. It's over on this beautiful street with lots of green trees. And she showed us the picture of the house. And I said, well, that's the house my husband keeps looking at. And I go, but that doesn't look like a healing farmhouse to me. And so we looked at that one house that we stumbled upon, and she drove us to this house, which is actually our house now. And I said, no, thank you. It just doesn't appeal to me from the outside, but I'm sure it's a great house. She said, actually, it's my favorite house in this town. And I said, okay, well, so we went home and we thought about it, and Mike kept looking at the picture of that house on Zillow, and he said, gosh, I really like this house. And I said, but it doesn't really have that healing vibe. I said, well, call Britta and see if we can go in and look in, at least in the inside. So we called Britta, and Britta said, oh, I'm so sorry, it is actually sold. And so we were kind of like, okay, it wasn't meant to be. And then Britta calls us back and said, it is on the market again. So we came out to look at it, and right when we walked in, we knew this was our house. And so the cool part is we looked around. It wasn't everything that my vision had shown me, but it was a great compromise of us both in between. But it was a beautiful house with lots of trees close to the river, and it had enough space to put animals. So we went home and we talked about it. And I said, you know, I don't want to do anything that's going to stress us out. I want to be totally in the flow. And so if this isn't the house for us, then I'm asking God to shut the doors. And if it is the house, I'm asking for signs. So it was really interesting. The next day I had asked for signs, and I kept seeing the number 333. I saw it when I turned on the car. It was on the radio. I saw it on the clock. I saw it on a billboard or on a license plate. Like, I kept seeing the numbers 333. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Is this the sign? So went to bed that night. We still were sleeping on it. We were going to go look at the house the next morning, but we really weren't sure if this is going to be our house. And so I remember going to bed. I never set my alarm for any 333 in the morning, but guess what? My alarm went off at 333. I did not set it. I look at my clock and I said, okay, I get it. Thank you. So that was my sign. That was our sign that this was the house we're supposed to be in. So We still didn't want to go into any financial stress or anything like that. So again, we told the realtor we would like to put an offer on the house, but we need to talk to our bank and stuff. Magically, everything worked out. They didn't even need my salary. We had a couple rentals in Phoenix that actually helped us to purchase the house up north, and it was smooth as silk. So it was really kind of a divine intervention. So since being here, it has blown my expectations. There have been beautiful people around here. It feels like a vortex of happiness. We now have 5 alpacas. We just had a baby alpaca a few weeks ago, and it has been a place where people come for healing. As they even come onto our property, they feel the healing that is in the trees. They feel the healing that is in our love on this property, and they feel the healing that God has created on this property. And so it's been really neat. So we are sitting here at our property 2.5 years later, loving it and enjoying all the different manifestations that have come. Thank you and have a great day.